back into the terminology, but I think we're going to go back into the bluesy kind of thing. So analyzing in the three different positions for this nodal point, but doing a bluesy thing. So I'm going to analyze it from the perspective of the collection of notes around the key of C, and then from the collection of notes around the key of G. So we're looking at that makes the E the Aeolian, this one, and then the collection of notes around the key of A sharp or G flat, which makes this node the Mixolydian. So that's going to be, I think, the plan going back over here. But as I do it, I'm going to try to be a little bit more specific on my new terms as well as I kind of pluck around so that I can just practice my naming conventions. So let's first just noodle around a bit just to warm up and see if I can practice a little naming convention as I do that. I'm going to see if I'm in tune real quick here. Good enough. Muy B to the N. All right. So, okay. So let's say I just noodle around here, and let's say I just start in just the middle of the guitar. Let's do it over here. I'm on the Aeolian node. So now I'm on the Aeolian node. So I can define that node. I'm in the collection of notes around the key of C, pinky note on the C, back to A, and then if I play that shape down, so I would call that, now I've got my pointer finger, 7th fret Aeolian node in the collection of notes around the key of C, or 7th fret D string Aeolian node. And I'm going to practice just a basic shuffle pattern for a half step walk back, reaching up with my pinky to the 10th fret Ionian node, or more specifically 10th fret D string Ionian node, and walking that back with a shuffle pattern, just tapping the G string below it but muting it with the palm of my finger or the pad of my pointer finger as I walk it back to the 9th fret Locrian node, to the 8th fret Aeolian Ocean node outside the key, to the pointer finger, which is my anchor, 7th fret D string Aeolian node. So 10th fret Ionian, 9th fret Locrian, 8th fret Aeolian Ocean, 7th fret Aeolian, Ionian, Locrian, Aeolian, Ocean, Aeolian Ocean, Aeolian, Ionian, Locrian, Aeolian Ocean, Aeolian, Ionian. Or I can go first, this is nodal point 1, node 1, node 7, node 6.5, node 6, nodes 1, node 7, node 6.5, node 6. Well, that's annoying. Do you really have to talk while you do it? That's the point of the practice. I have to say the thing. Ionian, nodal point 1, 7, 6.5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6.5, 6, 1, 7, 6.5, 6, 1, 7, 6.5, 6, Ionian, Locrian, Aeolian Ocean, Aeolian, Ionian, Locrian, Aeolian Ocean, Aeolian. So now I'm going to do a smear up into what I call the Ionian house up top, the box shape, going from the nodal point 3 Phrygian, smearing to nodal point 4 the Locrian. So that's going to be our classic smear maneuver. We're smearing into Lydian. So we're going to reach up, and so that's going to be smearing from fret 7 A string, nodal point 3 Phrygian, to fret 8 A string Lydian, nodal point 4. But I don't really need to say it's the A string. I can just say it's going to be smearing. I'm going to keep my root or anchor on 7th fret D string Aeolian, and then reach up with the ring finger smearing from 7th fret Phrygian to 8th fret Lydian. It's going to be an open hammer-on smear. It's an open hammer-on smear because I'm going from 7th fret open A string hammer to Phrygian smearing to Lydian. Now we're combining the walk back, 10th fret Ionian, 9th fret Locrian, 8th fret Aeolian Ocean, 7th fret Aeolian, to the hammer-on smear, hammer-on 7th fret Phrygian to Lydian smear, hammer-on, open string hammer-on, 7th fret Phrygian to Lydian smear. Aeolian, an anchor finger, a pointer anchor finger backwards, double fret wiggle. All right. Let's reach up, and then I'll reach up 8th fret Ionian, which happens to be the 3rd of, like it's almost easier to talk in nodal point terminology because that's going to give you the point, and we should be able to see the distance from it, right? So if I'm going on if I'm keeping my anchor on nodal point 7 Aeolian, Aeolian being my tonic as I'm thinking of it, and I'm reaching up to the 8th fret Ionian, or 8th fret E string Ionian at the top of the guitar, because now there's 2 E strings, right? But not top pitch, top of the guitar, right, closest to the ceiling. And then of course that's the third of my root, which I can see because it should be 2 modal whole steps up, which the 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 modal whole steps up, 6. Wait a sec. Yeah, 2 modal whole steps is 4 modal half steps. So 6, 7. Wait a sec. It should be 2 modal whole steps up. 2 modal half steps up. 6, 7, 1. Yeah, 2 modal half steps for the 3rd scale degree. So I'm reaching up now to the 3rd, which is 8th fret Ionian, which is the 3rd of the Aeolian. Ionian is the 3rd of the Aeolian. Always. If you don't change the number system, wouldn't that be convenient to know all the time? If the shape's always the same, and you know that the Ionian is always the 3rd, the 1 is always the 3rd of the 6, or always 2 modal half steps higher, you know? Or 2, yeah. if I rooted it with a different finger, now I've got a ring finger root, on the Aeolian, double stopping. So I'm on 7th fret Aeolian, focusing in on ring finger root on tonic, and then put in the pinky, 7th fret Dorian, underneath, which is 6, 7, 1, 2. That's 3 modal half steps up, which would be the 4th scale degree up, right? So it would be the 4th, 5 note away, 3rd modal, right? 4th, whatever. Okay, so we're gonna say, and then we go to and now I'm going to the Ionian Ocean, to the Ionian, to the Locrian. So 7th fret Aeolian, root, 7th fret Aeolian, rooting the ring finger, pinky on 7th fret Dorian, walking back to 6th fret Ionian Ocean, to 5th fret Ionian, to 4th fret Locrian. Or from a number system, nodal points, 7th fret, 7th fret nodal point 6, anchor with the ring finger, and then 7th fret, 7th fret nodal point 2, pinky, 6th fret nodal point 1.5. 0.5 means I'm in the ocean outside the key. 5th fret nodal point 1. 4th fret nodal point 7. Ring finger anchor on 7th fret 6. Pinky on 7th fret 2. 6th fret 1.5. 5th fret 1. 4th fret 7. So what would that be? Well, if I do that, if I think about that, that's going to be 6, 6, 1, 2. So it's going to be 2 modal half steps up from the Aeolian node to get to the Dorian. So 2 modal half steps, it's 6, 7, 1, 2, 3 modal half steps, which would be the 4th scale degree, right? So you have a 3rd modal half step, which is the 4th scale degree underneath it, and then walking back, now you have an Aeolian ocean. Now you have an Ionian Ocean. So this is going to be a distance that's going to be a little wonky from the perspective of this collection of notes, because it's outside of the collection of notes that would be normal to an Aeolian node. And then you've got the 1, which is going to be Ionian. So 6, 7, 1 would be 2 modal half steps up, which would be the 3rd scale degree, which is 3 notes away. So that's the 3rd. So Ionian is always the 3rd of Aeolian. And then you've got the 7, 6, 7, 1 modal half steps up. So that's going to be the 2nd scale degree. So it'd be a 2 note away 2nd. So most likely you want to end on the 6 and the 1, because that's going to be the 3rd. The 1 is the 3rd of the 6, if I'm thinking of the 6 as the anchor. I'm going to keep on noodling around like that, but I'm going to go back to, I think I'm going to go back to the bluesy thing that we analyzed multiple collections of notes, and I'm just going to try to do that so I can practice different collections of notes, and then the naming conventions on what's the most specific way to name it. And I really think the current way people name things, it's all over the place, right? Because it's not on the guitar, it's not as specific. Like you can name, like what are the ways that you can name like where you're playing on the guitar? I mean, you would think it's obviously just a grid for crying out loud. So it's got a y-axis and an x-axis and a y-axis, an inverted grid. You know, we're looking at the bottom quadrant of the grid if you think about this x-axis on the top, but you can also think of it at the bottom of the guitar, right? We're just naming it. X-axis could be down here, and the y-axis up here. And so this axis is obviously just the frets, and then this axis we could name by the absolute note names, but see that gets confusing when you're actually naming the nodal points as note names, because then you got to say, well, it's the open A, and then, but I'm also on an A or something like that. And it doesn't give you context. It doesn't give you context within the collection of notes. If you give the key signature, meaning you tell them the collection of notes so people know where the lava is, where your fingers are not supposed to go, then you can name by what I call the continent analogy. You have the fretboards, the world, you've got oceans and continents. We try to stay in the continents for the most part, go through the oceans, 7 continents, 5 oceans, right? And so now we know where the oceans are, where the lava is, where we try to not hang out too long because we get eaten by sharks if we go in there. And now I can name it from a coordinate system as the fret, and then the note name will give me the string name. I don't need to say that, look, this is the open string, because then the coordinate that I'm going to, 7th fret, the D string, will have the coordinate point that I'm going to name with the relative position, with the node number 6, meaning the Aeolian node, right? I think that would be the most. And then again, I could drop one or the other. I can drop either of these coordinates because there is only one unique point within these 12 strings and only one unique point within these 7 strings, except for the fact that you have the repeat of the E string, which messes everything up, but not too bad. We usually know what we're talking about. So I think it's easiest not to name things by this axis, because then you have 12 strings. So if I name it by the fret and then the relative nodal point, that would be the fastest way to name it, I would think, to tell you exactly where I'm talking about on the grid and give you the context if you know the key signature, which we should. If we're doing anything, we're going to have some kind of key signature. So I think that would be the fastest way to name it. Now you could name it by interval, right? So I could by distance kind of thing. But again, the distance thing only works if it's relative to a particular position. Like if I say that I'm on nodal point 6 here, that's my tonic, then I could name all of the other nodes as the distance from that nodal point number 6. As you can see in the top of the guitar, that's kind of what we're doing. Like if I change this to Aeolian, then the top of the screen will show you the second half, will give you the distances, and I can measure everything from that nodal point number 6. And then I can name like I could say that Ionian is now the third of this nodal point number 6. So that's another way you can name everything relative to the key that you're in, and that's fine too. But I think it would actually be more universal to just keep the nodal points the same, and then start to memorize and see that the nodal point number 1, Ionian, is the third of the 6th, rather than saying I'm going to reach for the third and then figure out that it's nodal point number 1, which happens to be a C in that collection of notes, right? Why would that be more efficient? Because you're going to have the same exact. Then all 12 collections of notes are going to all have the same relationship, and it's really easy to figure out the distance from 6 to 1 in the local distance, because you could just say, well, 6, 7, 1. If I go around a circle and there's only 7 nodes in the circle, that's 2 modal half steps up, plus 1 would be the third scale degree if you want to measure it in scale degrees, because we can't get away from it, right? So that would be, so I can easily, so the nodal, So I feel like if you're looking at a grid, a nodal point system that doesn't change based on tonic will have the same nodal points for all 12 collections of 7 notes and give you context as we name something, allowing us to name as efficiently as possible with just 2 numbers, basically, which would be the grid name or the fret name and then the nodal point name. That's what I feel like is the fastest way to do it. If we were like trying to be efficient, you know. And you might say, well, yeah, but then no one knows what you're talking about. Well, they should know what they should. That's how they should do it, though, is the point. That's how it should work. I know no one knows what I'm talking about, but like you will go faster if you did it that way, you know, and then and then you could bridge the gap, like because then you could anyway. So that's what then we can bridge the gap into like the normal kind of terms or look at it from multiple perspectives. But it seems to me, I'm just spitballing here, spitballing at the clock, that that would be the most efficient. Like if I asked Aura right now, like, would that be more efficient? And she'd be like, yeah, because she's a computer. And she'd be like, yeah, that would be the most efficient way to do it, I feel like. And then if that's true, why aren't we doing it like that way as the default, and then thinking about it from other ways, from the most efficient way to other ways for experiment? We shouldn't think of it weird and then think of it as more efficient as like a weird way to look at it. No, you should think about it like the most efficient way as the default, and then think about it weirdly as you branch away from the most efficient, right? Doesn't that, I mean, okay, I'm going to tell a joke first. Before I get into this, I'm going to tell a joke on this. Let's see what I have here. All right, somewhat political joke here. It's just a stupid joke. Whatever. I don't know. I wasn't. It's pretty lame, but we'll see. Whatever. It's just to see what we got, and then I'll get back into it. Joke practice time. Some people like Tucker Carlson because they think he really knows what he's talking about. But for me, he's double annoying. He's double annoying. First, because he's wrong. Second, because he's wrong through his nose. And that's what throws people off, I think. That's what throws people off. They hear that nasal delivery and go, oh, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. He really knows things, you know? And it's like, no, he knows things with an N-O-S-E, physically. That's where the information is coming from. That doesn't make it correct. He's not speaking from facts. He's speaking from the sinus cavity, for crying out loud. That voice isn't authority. That's cognizant with confidence. Congestion. Sorry, I couldn't read that word. That's congestion with confidence, dang it. It's like an argument that isn't being made. It's being pinched out through the nostrils. So when people say, I trust him, he really knows what he's talking about, I'm like, yeah, because he's literally talking out of his nose, for crying out loud. A little less nosing when you're talking about stuff would be great. Because right now it sounds less like journalism and more like a TED Talk delivered with allergies. Anyway, I know that's kind of an ad hominem attack, but I kind of... I feel like Tucker Carlson has gone under the radar for his craziness because of other people like Candace Owens, who's like, you look at Candace Owens and people are like, Tucker Carlson makes total sense. He's totally normal. It's like, no, the guy's also off his rocker. And so I want to point it out just to let people know just because relative to other crazy people, he's not like as crazy. He's still totally nuts. All right, I don't know what's going on with the guy. That's what I feel. Anyway, I wrote a song about it. I've never heard it yet before. Let's see what it's got. Suno's song.
Some people like him cause they swear he knows the score. Sits behind a desk like he settled every war. They hear that tone, that confident drone, like wisdom's been piping through a landline phone. But me, he hits me twice. A double dose of this ain't right. First cause he's wrong, plain and clear. Second cause the wrong's coming out. His sinus is dear. That's what throws the crowd off track. It's not the facts, it's the nasal attack. They hear that honk and suddenly think, oh wow, this guy knows things. No, he knows things physically. That's where the info's flowing apparently. Not from books, not from proof, from the upper face just south of the roof. No, he's not speaking truth. He's speaking sinus cavity. That voice ain't authority, let's make it plain. That's congestion dressed up as confidence gain. It's not an argument carefully weighed. It's pressure built, not getting pinched and sprayed. Sounds less like thinking, more like a squeeze, like a stress ball made entirely of sneezing. Somehow people nod along like mucus came with a peasy and a theme song. They say I trust him, he really knows. I'm watching syllables exit his nose. I'm like, yeah, sure, technically true, cause that's literally where the talk is coming through. No, he knows things physically. That's the source of the certainty. Not from facts, not from thought, but whatever the allergies recently brought. No, he's not breaking news. He's breaking sinus cavity. Yeah, so maybe, just maybe, let's nose it around when you're telling the world how it all breaks down. Cause right now it sounds less like journalism and more like oh, he knows things physically. That's where the info's flowing apparently. Not from books, not from proof, from the upper face just south of the roof. No, he's not speaking truth. He's speaking sinus cavity. Speaking sinus cavity. A TED talk delivered by allergies. Big red carpet, small box of Claritin, please. Standing ovation, tissues on deck. Confidence, loud credibility, wreck. Yeah, turn down the honk, turn up the proof, clear the airway, then talk your truth. Till then I'll listen skeptically to the broadcast live from the sinus cavity.
All right. Let's see. Okay, let's get back to it. So I'm gonna try to analyze the nodal points here. Each of the nodal points. So we're on, and then I'll look at it from like a blues in the key of E, but try first thinking, well, what if I only know the collection of notes around the key of C? And so I'm going to say, okay, well then I can kind of think about that E would be a minor E, and then I'm gonna sharp the third, and then it's different from the Aeolian because it has a minor second. So what do I can either leave that alone, or I can kind of play with that and say, well, what's that gonna do if I did that? if I like try to make it bluesy, smearing the third, but keeping the minor second. And then not doing the pentatonic, but doing like all 7 notes. Okay, so that's going to be the idea. So I'm on, and then we'll analyze, but then I'll also analyze it like if I'm in the key of the minor, E minor, and then key of the E Mixolydian, and look at the differences between the two, try to name my collection of notes for all of them until my head breaks, and then miraculously, hopefully it heals itself like a muscle or something by tomorrow, and then I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. You're crazy. No, that's how you flex. That's how you flex, man. All right. Anyway, I've got so I'm in the collection of notes around the key of C. So if I put my pinky on the C, which 8th fret Ionian, then that would bring me back to 5th fret Aeolian. So if I walk through that shape from Aeolian to Aeolian, I usually think about it as an Aeolian shape. I get to hear Aeolian. And then if I bring that down to the Phrygian, Aeolian, 6, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, Phrygian. So I want to be on the Phrygian. So I'm going to go, so now I'm thinking of this shape in the Phrygian. And so that means that I'm on 5th fret, G string, nodal point 3, Phrygian node. Or I can just say I'm anchoring my pointer finger. It's a pointer finger anchor, 5th fret Phrygian, because there's only one Phrygian on the 5th fret in the collection of notes around the key of C. That is also my tonic. So that's my anchor point. And then first I'll think about where's the third. Well, I'm looking for the third. Let's do it with my back fingers this way. Isn't that how they do it? Most people in America do it this way, and then in Europe they do it this way or something? I don't know. Anyway, let's say 3 this way. 3, or you have to do it this way. They do it that. Sometimes they do it like that. That's really weird for me. I never do that. It's 3. It's 3. No, that's weird, because the thumb is like weird compared to the other two. It's like you got 2 normal ones, and then you've got like that one's an outlier. Like at least these 3, they're not the same, but they seem similar. Who came up, like who would have thought that? Like how would you count? The thumb is weird. You don't use the thumb unless you run out of normal fingers, right? Because then that's what anyway. So I'll do it this way. 3 minus 1 is 2. So it'd be 2 modal half steps up from nodal point number 3. So nodal point number 3, 4, 5. So I'm looking for nodal point number 5, which would be out here. Nodal point numero 5. And we're going, that would be 1 modal half step up. 1 modal whole step up times 2 would be 2 modal half steps up, plus 1 would be the 3rd scale degree. How many notes away is it? If I'm going from a minor node such as the Phrygian, it's going to be 3 notes away. 3 notes away. 1, 2, 3. That's the one that I'm going to smear up with a classic smear maneuver. You can call it a slide if you want, but I feel like if it's a pinky smear, so it's going to be a pinky. So I'm going to do. So normally, if I'm anchoring here on fret 5. Nodal point 3 Phrygian, and I'm going to do a hammer-on pinky smear from fret 8 Mixolydian. Mixolydian always being the 3rd of the Phrygian, right? That's good to know. It's good to know. Mixolydian is always the 3rd of the Phrygian, but then I'm going to do a pinky smear to Mixolydian Ocean, and the Mixolydian Ocean is you can call it the major 3rd, right? So it's going to be, instead of it being 2 modal half steps up, it's 2.5 modal half steps up, which is a major 3rd. 2.5 modal half steps up, which would be 3.5 scale degrees, right? Or in other words, or in other words, a major 3rd, right? Okay. Pinky smear, hammer on 8th fret, pinky smear, hammer on 8th fret, Mixolydian pinky smear to Mixolydian ocean. Wait a sec. Now, why would you stop in the Mixolydian ocean? That's outside the key because it's the bluesy thing, and I'm kind of forcing it into a major thing, even though I'm thinking of it like in minor. That's what you do when you're blue. All right, so then, so that's going to be, okay. So what about the fifth, or the fifth? 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 modal half steps up from nodal point 3. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looking for nodal point numero 7. So we have one down here, and I have one behind it. Now the string above it's kind of wonky because if I think about my node being down here, that's after the tectonic plate, meaning there's the fault line above it. So I think about it from, if I'm here, I think about my plate stayed steady and the plate above me, this tectonic plate shifted to the left. So that means everything's out of whack to the left, meaning like if I was on that third, the nodal point 7 would be right above it, but I'm on this third, now the 7's back there. But that doesn't really help me if I'm anchoring with my pointer finger. So I want that 7 down here. So that's going to be, okay, so that's going to be that nodal point 7 is the second. So it's always the nodal point 7 or Locrian is always from the Phrygian node, the second modal half step, which is the 2 times 2 is fourth. No, the second modal whole step. 2 times 2 is 4 modal half steps plus 1 would be the fifth scale degree away, which has a distance of 7 notes away and from every node unless you're going from Locrian. So 5, 6, 5 notes between the strings, 6, 7. So there's a 7 right there, or there's the 2 modal half step, 2 modal whole step, 4th modal half step, 5th scale degree. So what about the 7th? Because we're doing blues, that's going to be 7 minus 1 is 6 modal half steps up. Or I can say if there's only 7 steps, if I go 6 forward, 7 minus 6 would be 1 backwards. So negative 1 modal half step from nodal point number 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. So I could say, okay, there's going to be, I could say I need a nodal point number 2. There's one right there. So that's going to be nodal point number 2. And that's going to be so that means that the Dorian, nodal point number 2, Dorian is always from nodal point number 3, Phrygian, the third modal whole step. 3 times 2 is 6th modal half step plus 1 is the 7th scale degree away, and it has a distance, because that's a minor node, of 10 notes away, a minor distance, as opposed to 11 notes away for the major distance. All minor nodes have a 10-note distance away for the third modal whole step, 6th modal half step, 7th scale degree, and the major node of Mixolydian also has a minor distance away. It's only the 2 nodes, Ionian and the Lydian, that actually have a major distance away that we usually call it, which is a major distance for the 3-note away, 3 modal whole steps, 6 modal half steps, 7th scale degree away. All right, but I'm going counterclockwise this time. So if it's 10 notes away clockwise, then I'm going around the block the other way. That would be 12 minus 10 would be 2. So I'm looking for a distance of negative 2. There's 5 notes between the string, 5 notes between the strings this way because of the fault line, 5, 4, 3, 2, because the tectonic plate shifted this one to the right. So that's negative 2 away, which has a clockwise or local distance of 12 times minus 2, which is 10. All right, makes perfect sense. So if I was to noodle around with that. And then the thing that's weird, what's weird about this collection of notes? Well, if I smear the third, that's normal bluesy stuff, same as the Aeolian. What's the difference between the Phrygian distances and the Aeolian distances? The Phrygian distances has the second, which is 1 note away. And from a scale degree standpoint, that would be the 9th, right? The 9th, or from a chord construction, it would be like the 9th, right? Because so that would be like so if I put that into modal half steps, that would be the fourth modal whole step if I was to build a chord. 4 times 2 would be 8 modal half steps. Oh no, I'm doing the thumb thing because I have to hold my pick. 8 modal half steps, and then you could say plus 1 would be the 9th scale degree, but that would be an octave up. If it's 8 modal half steps away, then I went around the block more than one time, so it'd be 8 minus 7 would be 1 modal half step up. So in other words, 1 modal half step up from the Phrygian would be to the Lydian, would be the local distance, and if you're building a chord, it would be an octave up. But normally, if it was the Aeolian, that would be a 2-note away major second. Here, it's only a 1-note away minor second. So that's the so if you want to make it sound, if you want to like look at this collection of notes and make it sound normal bluesy, then you would adjust that to a major second, right? And then I could still think about this collection of notes, but like I'm gonna kind of try to shift up that 4 if you want to do it that way. Or you can try to put that into play. I'm gonna lean on that. I mean, if you were doing well, if I want to lean on that, then like if you were doing a pentatonic thing, it would be gone anyways, right? Like if you were doing pentatonic, like these two would be gone typically. So you wouldn't even have to deal with it. You can just say, look, I'm doing pentatonic. That one's gone anyways, whatever. But, or you can try to lean on it, add it and lean on it to make it sound different, to kind of play with what would it be like if you mixed in the modes. You're mixing different color palettes together. So I'm kind of doing the bluesy thing, but I'm going to add that minor second. Kind of sounds like Eastern or something, I guess. So I don't know. So it doesn't sound as bluesy clearly if I do it that way, right? If I don't touch that one, it's hard not to play with that second because that's the thing that's different. But all right, so let's analyze that same collection of notes, but this time I'm looking at it from the minor position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift to this position, so that I'm looking at the minor. Okay, so let me drink my coffee here. So what is that going to? So I'm trying to make this. So I'm trying to make this minor. So one way I could do that is I could say, okay, if I know the top strings and I try to find, well, where is position number 1? I could say, okay, well, there's a E, open E here. If that's the minor, then I know the major's on the pinky, right? The pinky away from that. So that means this position 1 is back here now. So now from our Earth analogy, I'm rotating the planet. The 7 continents and oceans have moved, right? And so if I look at the relative positions, this shape right here has rotated, planets and oceans shifting back, same number system for the planets and oceans, but now that has rotated back here now, right? So now I'm back here, that's position number 1. So from an absolute position, like the grid, like if you imagine a grid over the planet, as the thing is rotating under the grid, I'd say, well, this is still this point. This is still an E, right? From that perspective, from the grid of position number 5, and naming this by the grid above. But within the continent that's rotating, that is now Aeolian. So now I'm in the collection of notes that I would name from the perspective of the major collection, right? I'm in the collection of notes here, which would be G, but my tonic is the Aeolian, which is an E. So that's still going to be my tonic down here, but that tonic is now the minor tonic. And so now I'm going to do the same kind of bluesy thing from the perspective of E, but E is now the minor. So now I'm in I would name that, the x-axis is fret number 5, the y-axis is the G string, and the nodal point now is nodal point 6 from the perspective of the collection of notes around G major, right? And so that would be more specific because and what shape am I in? Well, if this is shape number 1, that means this is shape number 2, this is shape number 3. So I'm kind of on the back end of shape number 3, which you might call, we always name them from the Ionian perspective from a cage system. So the Ionian, it would be an Ionian D-shaped. If I did a lean forward D shape, you might name it by just numbering from the rock and roll position, like I do 3, or you might name it by what it would be at the top of the shape, meaning if I played the first note of the shape, it would be a Dorian shape, right? I would be going from Dorian to Dorian. So it'd be 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait a sec. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. Right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. I'm not going to start at right because I'm going from 2 to 2, but I want to be in that shape. And now I'm looking at the tonic is the 6, Aeolian. Okay. So I'm on fret 5. Fret 5, nodal point 6, fret 5, 6. So again, my coordinates could just be basically I'm on 5, 6 because I'm not going to name this axis. I don't need to. I could say it's 5, fret 5, and the G string, but I'd rather name it by the nodal point because that gives me the coordinate and it gives me more information because it tells me what collection of notes I'm in essence, right? Or it gives me the position and the relative nodal point that I'm playing in, the node that I'm on. So that's why I think it'd be more efficient to say I'm on fret 5 and then the 6th nodal point, which is the Aeolian. So it's fret 5 Aeolian or fret 5 6 point nodal point. Where's my position? Fret 5 6 5 6, right? And then I'm going to say, okay, well, then I'm going to put my pointer finger on it, so I'm anchoring, so it's a pointer finger anchor on nodal point 6, Aeolian, the tonic, and so then I'm going to count this thing out again. So what about the third? Where's the third? Well, the third minus 1 is 2 modal half steps up from the nodal point 6, so it'd be 6, 7, 1. So I'm looking for the Ionian. So remembering once again, the Ionian is always the third, so the Ionian is always the first modal half step. 1 times 2 would be the first modal whole step. 1 times 2 would be the second modal half step, plus 1 would be the third scale degree from the Aeolian distance, which means that it has a distance away of 4 notes away. 3 notes away. 1, 2, 3, 3 notes away. So that means the Ionian is always the third of the Aeolian. The Ionian is always the first modal whole step, second modal half step, third scale degree from the Aeolian, which has a distance of 3 notes away. If I want to smear it, then I would be smearing it into the Ionian Ocean, right? Because I'm making it bluesy to the major third, 4 note away major third. So that's the same thing, except now I'm working on the same note. I have the same kind of idea there, but I'm kind of working as though I'm in position number 3 now. I'm at the bottom of position number 3 instead of the bottom of position number 1 if I'm thinking about the collection of notes this way. But I end up with the same smear to the third. Okay, what about the 5? 5 minus 1, the fifth minus 1 is 4. 4 modal half steps up from nodal point 6, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3 would be nodal point number 3, Phrygian. There's a Phrygian. That means that from the perspective of the Aeolian node, nodal point number 6, the Phrygian is always 3 modal half steps. I'm sorry, 2 modal whole steps. 2 times 2 is 4 modal half steps plus 1 fifth scale degree away, which has a distance from every node except for the Locrian of 7 notes away, which we can count 5 notes between the strings, 6, 7. All right, and so that nodal point, where is it? It's on fret 7, and then the string on the bottom, E, or fret 7. I'm sorry, it's fret 7, and the Phrygian string, or nodal point number 3. Now that's the only one that's a little wonky because there's 2 strings that are the same. But if I'm in perspective, if my pivot finger is on the Aeolian, and I say it's going to be, okay, which is the second string from the bottom of the guitar, the B string, and I say I'm on fret 7 Phrygian, right? I'm going to put the ring finger on fret 7 Phrygian, or 7-3. You're not going to be thinking 7-3 up here, right? You're going to be thinking 7-3 down here, because it would be weird to reach up like that for the most part. So context could kind of give you that 7-3 would be right there. And so, okay, what about nodal point? So that means that the third, from the perspective of the Aeolian, is always, once again, the second modal whole step times 2, fourth modal half step plus 1 fifth scale degree. Okay, so what about the 7? 7 minus 1 is 6 modal half steps up. 6, there's only 7 steps, so if I go 6 steps clockwise, 6 minus 1 would be 7 minus 6 would be 1 step counterclockwise, meaning I can go 6 minus 1, or to nodal point, that would take me to nodal point number 5. So nodal point number 5 would be here. So that would be then, that means that the nodal point number 5, Mixolydian, is always from the perspective of the Aeolian. The third modal whole step, 3 times 2, would be 6th modal half step, plus 1 would be the 7th scale degree, which always has a distance from a minor node, which are the Aeolian, Phrygian, Dorian, of 10 notes away instead of 11, and from the major node of Mixolydian also has a distance of 10 notes away, 11 notes away, only applying to the Ionian and the Lydian. But I'm going above it again, so I have to say the counterclockwise distance, if the clockwise distance to the right is 10, I'm going around a circle, there's only 12 steps in the 12 notes in the alphabet. 12 minus 10 would be -2. So I'm going -2. So, but there's a shift in the fault line, so that means this tectonic plate from the perspective of where my root is moved to the left. So it's going to be 5 notes between the strings this way, 4, 3, 2. So -2, 12 minus 2 would be +10. So we get the same thing there. What's the difference between this shape and what we did before? Well, this one has the normal major second. So the major second is, you can think of it from a whole step standpoint, it would be the 4th modal whole step. 4 times 2 would be 8 modal half steps, right? 8 modal half steps. And then plus 1 would be the 9th scale degree, but that would be an octave up. If I'm 8 modal half steps up, then I'm going around the block more than one time. I can say 8 minus 7 is 1. So it's 1 modal half step up from a local distance. And so it's the first modal half step, which is going to be 2 notes away. So now I have this 2 note distance right there, which is more normal, right? That's the more normal second, if you want to call it a two note second. The only one that has a 1 note second are the ones that are in the back of Ionian's house, Locrian and Phrygian in the attic and the basement. So if I'm thinking of this collection, I'm doing kind of the same thing, but then I have this minor second that I could throw in there. Now you might not throw it in there because you might say, well, look, I'm just going to remove those 2 in the box and make so that I'll have a pentatonic. But I'm gonna throw them in there just to look at the difference so that I can. And then I'm thinking of myself not as in this position around, I'm in this collection of notes, which means I'd be in position 1. I'm thinking of myself as though this is in position 3. that's useful. It's gonna help. It's gonna help me shape-wise to see where I'm at, right? So where's the box now? Now the box is to the right, and above it back one, right? So that's where kind of the box shape is. So like the box is here, but I'm smearing outside the box to get that major. So it's funny, you get these three. And then the box is up here. That doesn't, I can't really get to the back of that box, but then up above it I have this. So, okay. So then what if I analyze the same thing from this collection of notes? So now from the Mixolydian. So if I'm on, so the Mixolydian's a little bit more wonky to find because it's like, okay, well, the Mixolydian, if I find the Mixolydian, if I say, okay, I want to find that E, on the top string, I can find it here, but it's like, okay, well, that's Mixolydian now. And so where's the related Ionian if I name the collection of notes around the Ionian, right? So I can do it this way. I can say, well, okay, well, the Mixolydian is 5. How do I get to the Ionian? I can go backwards or forwards. It's less steps to go forwards around the horn to Ionian. So 5, 6, 7, 1. It's 3 modal half steps up. 3 plus 1 is the 4th scale degree, right? So it'd be the 4th scale degree up. So if I'm going from the Mixolydian, what's the distance of the third modal half step or 4th scale degree? It's 5 notes up. So if the open string is nodal point number 5, how do I get to the Ionian? 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it would be the Aeolian. So that would mean the Aeolian would be the major. And then if I go put my pinky on it back to the Ionian minor, there's position 1. So there's my position 1 now is here. And I want to get down to the Mixolydian note. So position 1 is kind of like the Aeolian position, 6. If I count it out to get to node 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nodal point 5. There it is. There's my Mixolydian, which is an E. So that makes sense. So then if I know this is an E, I know that's my Mixolydian. So what shape am I in this collection of notes? In this collection of notes, what shape am I in? Now wait a second. I'm over here now, right? In this collection of notes, what shape am I in? Well, I just figured. Now, what did I do there? Now I got mixed up. This is position number 1, which I just looked at. So this is, I think I just messed up, but this is position number 2. So I'm kind of like on the back end of position number 2. Now you could call position number 2, which is starting on 1, 2, 3, 4. You might say that that's the Ionian position, kind of, because that's the E bar shape if you start on the Ionian. But if you played the first note in the shape, it's actually the Locrian shape, right? But no one really plays in Locrian. So I kind of feel like it's still the Locrian. Like if I went from the first note, it would be the Locrian shape, right? Because if I just make that the tonic, so it'd be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? It's a weird scale. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? And so I want to get to 5. So it'd be 7, 1, 7. What is it? Okay, paso. I'm getting thrown off. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's where I am right there. Okay, so that's the shape that I'm in now. So okay, so now I'm gonna say I have pointer finger, fret 5. Now I'm on fret 5 at nodal point 5, or fret 5 Mixolydian nodal point. And so you could be more specific. Fret 5 G string nodal point 5, right? But I think it'd be a 5-5. I'm on the 5-5 position. Fret 5, and the second one is the point, nodal point 5. On fret 5, I'm on the only one that's a 5 nodal point. Fret 5-5, nodal point 5. Okay, so then I'm going to say, okay, well, what if, so what's the third away from that? 3 away minus 1 would be 2 modal half steps up, so 5, 6, 7. Now I'm on nodal point number 7. So that means that from the perspective of nodal point 5, Mixolydian, nodal point number 7 is always the first modal whole step, 1 times 2 second modal half step plus 1 third scale degree away from the Mixolydian. And it has a distance not of 3 notes, but now 4 notes away, because the Mixolydian is a major node, and the majors all have a 4 note away, first modal whole step, second modal half step, third scale degree, instead of a 3 note away distance. So that means that so that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. If I smear it, then I'm smearing from something outside the key into the key. So now I'm doing, if I have my pointer finger on the root, my anchor on fret 5, 5, it's a 5, 5, fret 5 Mixolydian nodal point 5, and I do a hammer on. Now I'm doing a hammer on to fret 8, which is nodal point 6.5, fret 8 Aeolian Ocean, 8, 6.5. Hammer on to 8, 6.5, and a smear up to 9, 7, or fret 9, nodal point Locrian, nodal point 7. So now I'm doing anchor, my anchor, pointer finger anchor on root, fret 5, 5, 5, to 6, to 8, 6.5, to 9, 7. So pointer finger anchor 5, 5, hammer on to 8, 6.5, smearing to 9, 7. Right, something like that. That would be, I think that's the most efficient way to say it personally. But no one says it that way because they're not saying it the most efficient way. But if they wanted to learn a way to say it, what if we said we want the third? What's the third? 3 minus 1 is 2 modal half steps up. So if I'm on nodal point number 5, 5, 6, 7. What did it say? I already did the third. If I want the fifth, 5 minus 1 is 4 modal half steps up. If I'm on fret number 5, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. So I'm looking for nodal point number 2. So that would be right here. So that would mean that means that nodal point from the perspective of nodal point number 5, which is the Mixolydian, nodal point number 2, Dorian, is always the second modal whole step times 2, fourth modal half step plus 1 fifth scale degree away, which has a distance in half steps of 7, as is the case for all nodes. Distance has a 7 note distance except for the Locrian. 1, 5 notes between 6, 7. Okay, so what if I was to say that I want to find the 7th of the Mixolydian notes? 7 minus 1 is 6. So I could go 6 modal half steps clockwise, or I can just take 1 step back because there's only 7 steps in the circle as we go around the block. So I can say 7 minus 6 is 1. So I'd go -1, 5 minus 1 is 4. So I can say, okay, so that's going to be 4. Here's a 4 right here. That means that from the perspective of the Mixolydian nodal point number 5, the nodal point number 4, Locrian, is always 3 modal half steps times 2, which would be, 3 modal whole steps times 2 would be 6 modal half steps plus 1/7 scale degree away from nodal point number 5, which has a distance in half steps of a minor distance, even though it's a major mode because it's the Mixolydian, which is more bluesy, which has a 10 node away distance, but that would be clockwise. I'm going counterclockwise, so if it's 10 clockwise and I'm going around the block the other ways, it would be -12 minus 10 or -2, and the fault line is above here, so that means this tectonic plate shifted to the left, so that means there's 5 notes between the strings this way, 4, 3, 2. So -2 distance or counterclockwise, which has a positive distance of 10. All right, so that's going to be, and then what's the difference between, this one also has a major second, most of them do, unlike the Dorian that we started with. So we have this same distance, that's not really the difference here between it and the perspective of the Aeolian. What if I looked, like when I was looking at the Aeolian, what's the difference between looking at this in the Aeolian and smearing up the third versus looking at this from the Mixolydian and smearing into the third, right? Instead of the Aeolian is smearing out of the third, and here we're smearing into the third. What else is different between the Mixolydian and the Aeolian? It's going to be the sixth. The Mixolydian has a major sixth, whereas the Aeolian has a minor sixth. So the sixth, if I look at the sixth, it's 5 minus 1, 5 modal half steps up. So if I'm on nodal point number 5, I could say, well, 5 is pretty close to 7. Why don't I take it down 2? So I might say, well, if I go 5 clockwise and there's only 7 steps in the circle, then I can go counterclockwise 7 minus 5 or -2. So I could say, if I'm on nodal point 5, minus 2 would be 3. So I could go to nodal point number 3, and that would be here. So this is the one that's different, right? That's the one that's different. So I can say, and again, you might eliminate it, or whatever. So the nodal point number 3. So that means that the nodal point number, from the perspective of the Mixolydian, nodal point number 3, which is the Lydian, is always, let's try to think of the 9. If I said it was, the 6 is the 13, like the 13. So that would be, so from a chord construction, it would always be 6 modal whole steps up. 6 times 2 would be 12 modal half steps up, plus 1 would be the 13th scale degree from a chord construction perspective, but that's an octave higher than the local distance, because if it's 12 modal half steps up, 12 minus 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's 5 modal half steps up, or the 6th scale degree. So the local distance is 5 modal half steps up, or the 6th scale degree, which has a distance from a major node of 9 notes away instead of 8 notes away from the minor node. But I'm going counterclockwise here. So if it was a clockwise distance of 9 notes away, 12 minus 9 would be 9, 10, 11, 12, -3. And from the perspective of this point, the tectonic plate here shifted to the left. So it would be -1 or -5 going this way, 5, 4, 3. So that would be -3 distance counterclockwise, which would have a clockwise or local distance of 12 minus 3 or 9. Whew. All right, so where's the box? If I have my pointer here, I'm thinking of myself in this shape, which is the shape which you could call, from a cage system, the Ionian E shape, or it's a Locrian shape from the first note if you started there, or it's going to be shape number number 2, right? Shape number 2. And I can see that from, if I'm anchoring my finger here, where's the box? The box is right up top. There's the box. And then from this shape, I have this, what I call the 3 pillars shape, like, because if you started on the, if you start on the Mixolydian, like you get the, if the Mixolydian was up top, you get these 3 pillars like this, right? Where you have 3 stacks of 3. So, but down here, one of the stacks is up top, so you get like these stacks of 3. So just from a shape standpoint, all right. So it's like, all right. So if I was here, then, so now I'm on fret 5, anchor 5/5 point, because it's fret 5, and then I'm pointer finger on the Mixolydian node 5/5, hammer on to fret 8, nodal point 6.5, Aeolian Ocean, and it was smearing up, smear up, hammer on, smear up to fret 9, nodal point 7, so fret 9, Locrian node. And then and then I can go down here for a power chord, which means I'm reaching down to fret 7, 7/2, 7/2. Now, obviously, I don't mean the 2 up top, because my anchor is down here on fret 5. So I'm going to say the 2 is on the bottom string, bottom of the guitar, high-pitched string. And then I have the box up top, which gives me a smear forward. So I could do a smear from fret 6 Phrygian to fret 7 Lydian. Now, if I have an open, if I do the open, it's kind of interesting, because now that open string is outside the key, but that's the minor. So in other words, this open string right there is outside the key, but it's the minor, which is kind of bluesy. So so that's kind of interesting to note. So if I lean on that minor and then smear to the major, you get the. Whew. Alright, I got it. My head is hurting. I need to just relax for a second. I'll go back on over here. I didn't change the top of the screen as I went through those 3. I'll try to do that better tomorrow. Mm-hmm.